Stalking goes hand in hand with narcissistic injuries, and here's why. You see, what happens is that the paranoid ideations is a way of deflecting shame and guilt. When a narcissist idealizes and idolizes somebody, they've already made that person an important instrument in their own emotional regulation. But this power dynamic also creates a lot of confusion and distress because their entitlement to be in control becomes violated by their codependent attachments, which they often will conceal. So when they start stalking you, it's because they're fighting to gain control emotionally of themselves. You see, their paranoid ideations cast themselves as a victim, and everything that they feel emotionally becomes part of the basis, the architecture of the person that they're stalking. And so they have a very difficult time acknowledging things that would be humiliating and shameful, especially because they're aware. Often they know that you really haven't done anything wrong, but they have a big problem confronting that realization. They bury it with layers of entitled justification. And so these justifications serve as instruments to block them from the accumulation of shame, self directed rage, hatred, and self directed betrayal. Because this is often a forfeiture of the relationship, a total sabotage. You see, they had such high hopes because at the very beginning, they saw you as perfect, someone that can fix them, someone that can change their life, someone that is going to help them. But you see, they can't handle any normal emotional shifts in other people because their idealization requires such a narrow range of motion. Like you lose all autonomy with covert narcissists in this regard. And so stalking is an effort to try to establish dominance or control in their own imagination. They reverse the victim and offender role not just as a manipulation in Darvo and face-to-face interactions, but for their own psychological subjective reality. They build narratives around things that never even took place, that their recollection of the past is going to transform and defy reality. You may wonder, why am I sharing these conversations? Well, because when they see those conversations, it causes significant distress for these people and fear as well. Because if you notice, the stalkers all hide their identity because they know what they're doing is wrong. They know it's shameful. They know that it has nothing to do with anything that actually took place. Otherwise, they would have the courage to come forward and say, oh, yeah, Nate did this. But the problem is I have the receipts. I have every conversation we've had and all the interactions that fly totally contrary to the narratives that they create in order to justify and entitle this level of self-deception. If you even look at my former moderator saying that she stopped watching my videos and that she gets sick from watching them, well, it's a complete lie because she stalks me. Because the moment I made a new account, she was already on it. That she would make unlimited fake accounts, even ones to try to reestablish the same type of relationship. I mean, it's a level of malignant greed where she wants the narcissistic supply of the positive relationship that she got by being my right-hand moderator, someone that managed a group of moderators and made herself very important doing that. And so she would come back as someone else and start sending gifts and then resume her position as the number one gifter, and then literally saying things that were modeled after everything that I would say, and then some of them would catfish me, like, go and grab internet model pictures and then try to get me to talk to them. And, it's always somewhat obvious. Like the thing that narcissists can't hide due to a lack of self-awareness is when you think about like online profiles, where it's just an icon, the way that they act, the way that they communicate, it's very discernible to healthy people. And so like when she would come back as someone else, even as a dude, it's kind of like Agent Smith in the Matrix where they, you can assume the body of someone, but that's just another mask. It's the same person and it's just a different icon, a different screen name, but the exact same act, the same strategies, the same profoundly limited intellectual ability to even understand or empathize with other people. They don't have any empathy because the fear and all the social anxiety, as well as all the noise in their head, their entitled self righteous justifications, block any form of actual objective reality to enable them to avoid and skirt the emotions that are being held subconsciously. The problem is the development of sadism. Sadism is a natural manifestation of denial because when you act in an inhuman and disgraceful way, you accumulate shame because you know. So they know better. And so they just pretend they don't because of the cowardice, because of the humiliation. You see, when somebody sabotages themselves in a relationship knowingly, that hurts. It's shameful. And so in order for them to cope, they become obsessed with ongoingly reaffirming their narrative. And there's a lot of people like that. And so in a real way, I did not find myself bothered by the smear campaign because it was consolidating similarly pathological people, sadistic people. I mean, anybody that would enjoy, watching someone try to get me triggered in the course of a live stream or, want to take me down or be willing to entertain notions that are totally nonsensical, that if you were to listen to my videos and listen to me coach people, or if you understood it, those narratives would not necessarily, be fulfilled, through direct observation. And so people have a vested interest in sadism. And so there's just people that align with the punitive nature of sadistic, narcissistic people. And by consolidating those people, it's in a way, I don't want to coach them, because, when you think about the beguiling nature, that's what they do. And so even if they have a great experience, it's always going to become something where then you become responsible for them in their own interpretation. They develop an identity around being your moderator or being somebody that benefited from your coaching. They feel like they belong to a community and their identity is connected to it. And that's also something that makes them feel vulnerable. They don't like that dynamic after a while. They want to be equals, they want reciprocal attention. And their paranoid ideations often have them follow along in the live stream, imagining that everything that's being said has personal significance or implications, that I'm talking to them. Like they're interacting with me. And they may be making comments, but you see, they're so analytical that they are actually having a conversation with a fictitious version of myself, often becoming a victim in those interactions. And so you don't have control over any of that. And it is an inevitability that these people, when they become codependent emotionally, using you for supply, using you for identity, you don't have anything other than to fail. There is nothing you can do. It's peaked already. And so they're eventually going to have emotional changes, but those emotional changes are always going to not involve them being accountable and responsible whatsoever. They are going to blame you. And that is all there is to it. It doesn't matter what you do. And once they transform into this malignant version of themselves that is projecting their own shame, rage, and guilt onto you, even the shame and even the anger, you see, they will act as if I am stalking them, as if I'm trying to suppress their freedom of speech, and I've got no interest in their smear campaigns. I've only got interest in maintaining my own account because they would attack the account. They would come in coordinated droves. They would pay other people, like content creators, to harass and prank call. And they were effective in their assault by continually to report videos. They got the account shadow banned, and they made it very difficult for me to conduct any kind of coaching business through my already existent following here on TikTok. And it was very, very distressing, not based on what they said about me, but the fact that TikTok enabled that kind of malignant and abusive behavior. and that is it. You know, and that